Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, and welcome back to another episode of Road to 1000 DuelingBook rating. Once again, for this episode, I'm going to be playing the Rokket Orcust list that I did play yesterday, and you guys did seem to enjoy that, and gave the video actually the 100 like goal that I set out. So with that, I will be actually bringing to you guys a Rokket Orcust deck profile pretty soon. I'll be working a little bit more on optimizing it and making improvements, because I still think it's not quite where I want it to be, but be on the lookout for it. It should be out later this week or closer to the weekend. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for giving that video a lot of support and attention and love, because it really does help grow the channel, and I am trying my best to hit 5k. Remember, if we hit 5k subs this month, I will be doing a free giveaway tournament. So if you are new here, do consider subscribing if you are interested in informative, competitive, long-form Yu-Gi-Oh content. And with that being said, we're going to be going ahead and just jumping into the matchup here. So we're going to be playing against Gravekeepers today, which if you guys saw the community tab poll, you guys saw that I did have that on the table. And this is an interesting matchup because it's Orcust, aka the Graveyard deck, versus Necrovalley, the anti-Graveyard Floodgate. So yeah, very, very unfavorable matchup. It's going to be very tough to win for sure. And he wins the RPS and chooses to go first, unsurprisingly. So yeah, his hand is going to be a copy of Judgment, a copy of Royal Tribute, 2 Necrovalley, as well as a Terraforming. So he has pretty much all he needs, even though he doesn't have any of his like monster engine. Like he has Necrovalley, so that's going to be enough against this deck. And Royal Tribute as well. I remember when this card went back to 3 and people were kind of like scared of this deck kind of popping up, but it really hasn't done a whole lot, even though with Necrovalley against the right matchup like this one, it can be enough to steal games for sure. But oh yeah, our hand is, you can see our hand is amazing. We got Red Eyes Black Dragon and Dark Magician, and we got Nibiru against the Trap deck. So 3 dead cards basically. We have Ravine, which is a 1-card Chaos Ruler, but it does require a normal summon if we don't open it with specifically Tracer, Router, or Dark Worm. So like that's not like the worst case scenario, but it's not like the best either. It's not the strongest starter extender. And then we have Allure, which is not really going to be doing a whole lot, especially when he's going to Royal Tribute us. So yeah, he's going to Terraforming. I misclicked there. But he's going to add a copy of Mystic Mine. And I thought it was going to be Mystic Mine Burn. And I was like, oh man, I don't really have very good outs to it. But he activates Necrovalley, which I'm like, thank goodness it's Mystic Mine, but also it's Necrovalley, so it's like hard for me to play the game regardless. Like at least I can attack and like summon monsters and activate effects and stuff. But it locks out a lot of my deck. Like it cuts off probably 80% of my options. And then Royal Tribute gonna come down, and he gets to see my amazing top tier hand. But yeah, he's gonna set Judgment and pass. And then I draw another copy of Nibiru, so the gift that keeps on giving. We're gonna go ahead and activate the Ravine, and then pitch the Nibiru out of hand, and send a copy of Router to grave. That adds a copy of Tracer to hand. So at this point, I'm like, maybe I can go Chaos Ruler and just go for beatdown mode and see like what cards I can excavate and maybe try and draw my way out of this. But when I go to normal summon Tracer, he actually hits it with a Judgment, and at this point, like when I was playing, I was actually thinking, on his end, that is perfectly fair. Like, fair enough, If my hand is not going to be monster heavy because you Royal Tributed me and you saw I pitched Nibiru for turn, you knew that was my top deck, so the last card in my hand can't be a monster. So it's like, what else can I really, like, realistically do? So I'm like, that is fair enough. Like, that is reasonable because he has much more inevitability than I do at this point. So yeah, going to go ahead and use the duality that he grabbed for turn, and he got access to Throne, which is the Rhoda basically, as well as the Gravekeeper's Spy, so he has a monster now. He's going to pick up the Throne, and then he's going to use it to search the Spy. And then he's going to set Spy, and now I am going to have to struggle to out an engine as well. For turn, we draw a copy of Gyusu, which is nice. It's a good thing I didn't Allure last turn. I didn't want to blind Allure. But if I did and I drew like Gyusu and say another spell card, then I would have had to banish this, when this is like one of the only ways I can actually out Necrovalley. So it was like, it's very good that I chose not to Allure there. I'm very fortunate that I got the Gyusu. So we're going to use Gyusu to dump Nightmare, and then we're going to use its other effect, of course, to put tokens on board. And then we're going to link away the token for Link Rebo, and then link those away for Galatea. And then we're going to just straight go into Dingirsu and send away the Necrovalley, because that is the only thing we can really do. And now I know that he has a Mystic Mine in hand, because he searched it with Terraforming turn 1. So I have to like make sure that I don't clear the whole board. Because the Gyusu token is 0. So I could technically go, Nightmare to boost the Dingirsu like I am doing right now. And then I can like Wand, bring back the Nightmare in attack position. and then like beat over his monsters. And like granted, Spy would have got him another card, so it wouldn't have brought him down to 0 necessarily. But I decided, I don't want to play into mine when I know he has it. So he's gonna go ahead and flip up Spy after I attack, of course, and he's gonna bring out Headman. And Headman's effect allows him to summon the Spy right back, and in face-down defense position, no less. So he's gonna get even more value out of it. I didn't even know this card existed, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's one of the cards that came out when the Wave of Support came out like a year or two ago. I actually didn't even know this card was a thing that I had to play around, but he was going to go, or I'm going to go ahead and use Wand in main phase 2 to bring back the Nightmare. I could have sent Gizmek, and then that way could have like Gizmek attacked, but then like this isn't once per turn, right? So it wouldn't really have mattered. He would have gotten value out of it regardless. But yeah, I just go ahead and decide to go for the preservation of my Orcust engine by sending Wand instead. This way I can go into a second copy of Galatea, recycle the copy of Wand to set a Crescendo, and then just basically sit in it. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to go in a second Nagirsu here. And yeah, we have Crescendo, and basically I'm just saving it for Necro Valley, because I know they have 3 Necro Valley, they have Terraforming, they have 3 Commandant, and they have 3 Throne. So that's 10 direct ways to search it. And they also have, like, I would assume Extravagance and Duality, right? So they have a lot of ways to get to it. So I'm like, as long as I can keep him off Necro Valley, that is the only card that I really care about in this particular case. He's going to go ahead and flip up Spy, and he's going to grab a copy of Descendant from deck, and I'm like, oh, that outs Crescendo right away. So he's going to tribute the Headman to force a Crescendo, and then he activates Necro Valley. I can't be too upset that he drew it, because he had it since turn 1, and he has, again, just so many ways to get to it, so it's like, they're bound to have it, even if you out the first one. But then he normal summons Spiritualist, which is the fortunate top deck that he needed, because now he's going to be able to put a monster on board that I actually just can't attack over, as you're about to see. So he's going to fusion summon away with the Spy to grab a copy of Supernaturalist, which gains attack and defense equal to the combined original levels of whatever its fusion materials are. So it gains 800, plus the Necro Valley gains 500, so it's on 33. And that is bigger than anything that I can realistically summon. So that is pretty unfortunate. He is going to use the effect. He already used the effect. I don't know if you guys saw it, but yeah, he's going to use the effect to grab the end phase search. Just kidding. Oh, I read the chat wrong. Never mind. He's using it now. All right, never mind. I didn't pay attention. But yeah, he's going to use it now to get the end phase search. He's going to attack Galatea, and then bring me down by 15. And then he's going to add a copy of Spy in the end phase. So at this point, I'm like, all right, not even Girsu outs this anymore, because 1, I'm out of Galateas, and I have space for 2. And 2, even if I had Girsu, the Link Tree was engraved, and I can't tribute it to get the effect monster on board needed to make Galatea. So I'm like, that is kind of off the table. I'm like, I'm not sure how I can out Necro Valley besides Nightmare Unicorn. So I'm like, that's the only real hope that I have. So gonna go ahead and activate an Allure, because I drew a Nightmare for turn. I'm like, all right, at least it gets a dead card out of my hand and I can cycle a bit. And I get a copy of Tracer and Girsu, which is actually pretty decent. I banished the Nightmare because it does the least in this hand. Even though the Girsu isn't that useful, at least it's a normal summon. And then Tracer can help me get into Chaos Brewer, and it's here where I'm like, oh, I cut Savage. Like, maybe Savage could have just outed the Supernaturalist, but then I realized it has to equip from Grave, and that moves a card, so I can't even do that under Necro Valley. So it would still be under 3,300. So I'm like, wow, this is like really a tough position. So at this point, I'm like, all right, the Ravine can't get me anywhere because Dark Worm can't summon itself. I already used the Router, and I have, if I had Boot Sector, like maybe I could have made it work, because then I could have like Special Tracer, get Recharger, and then summon Girsu, but then I wouldn't have cards in hand to discard for Unicorn. So I'm like, man, I just really have no idea how I'm going to out this. But I'm going to try anyways. I'm going to go for a Tracer to pop the Ravine to go for the Recharger and try and make a Chaos Ruler. I'm not really sure what I'm trying to excavate here, but I just want to see what I have access to, if I have any other options. I use this effect, and then I reveal a whole lot of nothing. So I can only add Nibiru to hand. Like, the only extender really that I could actually make use of is Quick Launch, which can't be added to hand via Chaos Ruler, so I'm not really sure what my mindset was there. The baby Chaos Dragons also can't be used, obviously, under Necro Valley, so there's not a lot of options I had for extension to just straight up summon monsters without banishing. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to out this. Let's just go ahead and go to game 2. Pretty expected result given the fact that he went first and he opened well and I opened pretty poorly. But we're going to go ahead and go first in game number 2 here. And our opening hand is Babel, Recharger, Allure of Darkness, Ravine, and Chaos Base. So this hand's pretty decent. It has some soft garnets in it, but nothing that hinders you from playing, which is nice. Like if this was like Scrap Golem and Rosenix, then this would be horrible, right? Because even if I drew Recycler later, then it wouldn't work. But if, in the event that I draw like Tracer, Quick Launch later, this obviously still can work. I just summon it from hand. Allure is kind of weird because in some cases I really like it. In other cases, like I don't want to banish the Recharger because then I can't get it back. Like if I pitch it off Chaos Base, it's fine because I can get it back with Striker Dragon, but not if I banish it. And then his opener is Nibiru, Duality, Necrovalley, Spy, as well as Extravagance. This deck can't really play around Nibiru that well, at least the way that I have it built. Just because like you use Tracer quite a lot earlier into the combo, so there's not really any Dark Monster that prevents Nibiru that well. So yeah, that is kind of one of the weaknesses, but I mean, it's again one of the reasons why this isn't the best deck, right? But yeah, our hand is still pretty solid. We're going to go ahead and Ravine, get rid of the Allure, because we're just not going to use it this turn. We're going to send Router to add Tracer, and then we're going to Chaos Space away the Recharger to add a copy of Wyver Burster to hand. And then we're going to banish the Router to summon the Wyver Burster, and then go for Striker, and Wyver Burster at Collapse Serpent and Brute Sector. Then we can banish the Wyver Burster to summon out to the Collapse Serpent, and then use Chaos Space to grab ourselves another draw. And then here we pick up a Gyusu, which is nice, because we don't actually have to go into Chaos Roller here. I will end up going into it anyways, which is definitely risky given the fact that I can mill Red Ice Fusion. And even though I did it in yesterday's video, and you might be like, why would you do that in like today, like now that you know that you can mill Red Ice Fusion? It's because I actually played this game first. I recorded these a bit out of order, but industry secrets, we can time traverse. But we're gonna go ahead and use Striker to add back Recharger, and then we're going to go ahead and activate the Brute Sector to summon out both the Rockets from our hand. And then I go ahead and use the Collapse Serpent as well as the Tracer, that way I can summon Chaos Ruler and Chain Block from Gamma in case he's holding it. So I go to add the Wyver Burster and then see what I can get, and it is not insane, but it is Nightmare, which is decent if I didn't happen to draw Gyusu off of the Chaos Space, which is nice. So able to pick up a copy of Tracer to hand. It is about like a 15 to 20% chance, depending on how many cards you have left in deck, to hit the Red Ice Fusion. So it's not a non-zero. It isn't a non-zero chance, but sometimes you gotta high roll it. Realistically, if I were to play this now, I probably wouldn't have gone for Chaos Ruler at all, to be honest. But I'm just gonna go ahead and normal summon Gyusu next, and then use it to send a copy of Wand. We can Nightmare to send a copy of Symbol, and then Wand back the Nightmare. And I'll go for a copy of Galatea, and then recycle the Nightmare. It sucks that I milled the Crescendo, because now I actually just don't have any targets to set. I'm not playing Return in this build, just because I'm playing a pretty low Orcust count. And even though it's like searchable, I don't want to open it and just not be able to use it. I just want to reduce the amount of cards that are situational. So I go ahead and use Symbol to bring back the Gyusu, just so I can ding reattach the Symbol, get a little bit more value there. Because either way, it's going to be ending on a copy of Masquerena plus a copy of Verte. But on summon, before I use the effect, of course, he's going to use Nibiru. That is not in response to it. I just clicked the button pretty fast. But he's going to Nibiru here. And then, yeah, that's kind of just the extent of what the deck does. It's kind of unfortunate. We can't use this Crescendo this turn in gray because we summoned the Wyver Burster. Otherwise, that is the only light monster, or the only non-dark monster that we summoned. But yeah, we just kind of have to pass on Babel and just hope that our one interruption gets us there. He draws a copy of Spiritualist for turn, and then he's going to use Extravagance at the start of main phase 1, banish 6, and then draw Nibiru Mystic Mine. So thankfully right now, I don't have more monsters in him, so Mystic Mine is off. But we're going to have to find a way out of this pretty quickly. He activates Necrovalley's Chain Link 1, and I'm actually going to chain to the activation of the card, the Symbol. And then he questions, is wondering why I can do this. Because he's isn't Necrovalley a lingering effect? Which it is while it's on field, but you are able to chain to the activation of the initial card. So you could chain stuff like MST or Solemn Judgment, for example. Judgment being the better example because it shows that even if it hasn't resolved yet, you can still negate the activation and chain to it. So that's why you can chain Symbol, of course. and then go for the Girsu. And then gonna go ahead and send away the Necro Valley. He probably has access to another one, and he definitely does. I see Necro Valley rips it off the top, or not Necro Valley, sorry, Duality rips it off the top. And I'm like, all right, that's not too unexpected. But now I have to pretty much just use all of my graveyard effects right now before it gets shut off. So gonna have to use a Nightmare to target Dingirsu. That's gonna be relevant to send Gizmek. And then gonna use Crescendo to add a copy of Symbol to hand. And then also use Gizmek Engrave as well. So here I'm like, all right, that's all the graveyard effects I have. I can't really use anything else, so I just pass priority back to him. He goes Battle Phase to crash the Nibiru, and I'm like, oh, that means he has Mystic Mine. I'm like, I should have put this in attack, or I should have boosted the token, one or the other. But yeah, he goes ahead and crashes Nibiru, and then he just activates Mystic Mine and passes. And my outs are pretty limited. I did banish one copy of Lightning Storm, but luckily well, first off, luckily I banished Fusion and Dark Magician like after I already went through Verity Anaconda, so that's less dead cards. But now I have to bank on the other Lightning Storms and the Feather Duster, which is gonna be tough, especially with the Lightning Storm. I have to like use things very carefully, but there is a way to make it work. And you guys, I'll give you guys a couple of turns to kind of sit here and figure out how I can make Lightning Storm work here. But I go ahead and just switch Ding to defense and pass after drawing Red Eyes. He draws Lightning Storm, and he just passes. I draw Girsu, and here I'm like, alright, in the event that I do have an out to the mine, I want to be able to prepare the board so that I can just OTK without playing into more hand traps. So I decide I'm just going to go ahead and set monsters, just so I have more bodies on the board. Which is weird, because like, why would you want more bodies on the board against mine? I have a plan in mind, don't worry. I set Symbol and pass. He draws Pankratops, passes. I draw Lightning Storm, which is an out, but not right now, of course. I go ahead and link off into Barricade, and then I set a copy of Girsu, or not Girsu, sorry, Tracer, and then pass. He's gonna pick up a copy of Throne, and then Throne for Descendant. And here's where I'm like, oh, maybe he's gonna make a play, because like he might be able to just try and clear parts of my board. But no, he's just gonna pass. And I pick up a copy of Ravine. I actually do have the means to outmine this turn, but I'm not gonna do it. And if you guys haven't figured it out yet, basically it's to tribute set the Red Eyes and then set Ravine over the Babel, so I have no face-up cards so I can use Lightning Storm. But I can't OTK from this position. Remember what I said, I want to make sure that I can, not play into hand traps. So I'm going to wait another turn so that I can then flip up this Red Eyes, because obviously I just said I can't flip it back up this turn. So I'm just going to wait and then just hopefully flip everything up and just OTK. He picks up a copy of Headman. He is going to set Lightning Storm and pass. I'm like, oh man, if that's a Judgment, because I saw Judgment in game 1. If that's a Judgment, I just lose, but I have to kind of go for it. I go for Allure just to see if I can maybe do it, but nope. I pick up a Nightmare, which is not going to be another copy like a Lightning Storm or another copy of or a copy of Feather Duster. So I'm like, all right, it's now or never, because if I give him more chances to draw into back row, it's not going to make much sense. So I have to do it now and just hope he doesn't have it, because he's more likely to draw like out to storms than I do to draw storms, right? So I'm gonna have to set Ravine and pass and hope, and thankfully it is not a Judgment. So we're able to just flip everything, summon Girsu. This actually isn't enough on board right now because it's a 4k plus, oh wait, yeah, 4k plus 3k. So yeah, I have to summon the Wyvern Burster as well. But thankfully Nibiru does not count flip summons, so flip summoning confirmed the best mechanic in the entire game. So that's enough to OTK, and we move on to game 3. So we're going to go into game 3, and he's going to go first, unsurprisingly. It is, again, just Gravekeeper. He's going to start off with a Extravagance, and he has Terraforming, Crackdown, Necro Valley Strike, so solid go first hand. We have Gizmek, Tracer, Feather Duster, Babel, and Nightmare, so we have an out to the Necro Valley. So we're just going to see how this pans out. He draws Duality and Judgment. He's going to Necro Valley, or Terraforming for another Necro Valley, and then he's going to Duality for what I can only imagine to be Strike, because I just saw him add Necro Valley, so I'm like, he has no reason to add another one. And he's going to add Strike to hand, and then set 4, activate Necro Valley, and pass. So I'm like, alright, well, because he set all of these and he knows I have Lightning Storm, I know one of those is probably going to be Judgment, but I have a plan here. So the plan is, go for Gizmek on his end phase, that way he can't strike it. And then I do banish some relevant cards. I do banish the Boot Sector, so I can't like summon Tracer from hand. I do banish Red Eyes, so I can't ever go for Dragoon this game. And And then I also banished Router, which is one of the best targets to send off Ravine. But yeah, the goal is I say that as I draw Ravine, but the goal is, all right, even if I use Duster and he has Judgment, I can just bring him down to 4k with it, and then normal summon Tracer, not play in a strike, and attack for game. That is my hope. I'm just hoping like his back row is like a bunch of impermanences or strikes or there's things that he can't use to stop a battle phase. So just go ahead, Duster, he's gonna Judgment. I figured he had Judgment. I'm just gonna go normal summon Tracer, go battle phase, and then attack. But he has Crackdown, so I'm like, oh man, that's like one of the cards that actually can fade the battle phase here. So I'm thinking, do I want to use Tracer in response to Crackdown to pop the Gizmek? And I'm like, I know he has Strike, but if I don't use it, then nothing's gonna really come out of this, and like there's not really a whole point. Whereas like if I at least try for it, I'm gonna bring him closer down to 0, and I will never be able to be Mystic Mind this game, which is like another thing that I have to watch out for. So I'm like, all right, might as well just try and go for it. Like I'm not achieving damage if this goes through and I don't force out Strike anyways, so I might as well just try and force it out. So I go ahead and use it, and then use the Strike. So I just go ahead and pass him over the Gizmek, and then just pass turn. Can't really do a whole lot here. He picks up a Judgment and then passes. I draw a copy of Allure. This is a spot where Allure is good, whereas last game I pointed out a spot where it was bad. But it's nice to be able to try and dig for side cards. When we pick up Dark Magician, we can banish it, just because we don't have access to Dragoon. And I can also do the Tribute set trick that I did last game with the Nightmares too, which is kind of funny. But right now I don't have anything on board, so it's not really relevant. He draws a Summon Limit, which is pretty nice, and then he passes. I draw a Lightning Storm, but he had Judgment 2 turns ago, so a bit late on that one. Gonna go ahead and get Judgmented again, and then pass. He pays the Royal Tribute, which is not really gonna do a whole lot. Like these monsters didn't do anything, but this one does. So I draw a Gyusu, which, as you saw in game 1, is an out to Necro Valley. It's not a clean out. It's not like the best way to do it, but it is a way to do it. So we're gonna go for it. Go for Ascend of Wand, and then we're gonna summon tokens. But then he's going to smack me with that Summon Limit. So another turn of not being able to out this card, unfortunately for me. I just go ahead and pass. He picks up a copy of Card Demise, but he's gonna opt to actually special summon this turn and go for Phoenix so he can out the Gyusu, because of course the Gizmek can't attack. So just gonna go ahead and beat over it. That way he can't go Galatea. And then he passes, and then I draw a copy of Chaos Space. And I'm like, I could make Link Reba, but there's really no point, because like Phoenix attacking into the token is 0 damage anyway, and I need to keep the Link Reba in extra deck, so that if I draw another Gyusu, I can try for Galatea again. Galatea then Gyusu again. So I just end up passing. Very riveting gameplay here. He picks up a copy of Throne. He's going to Throne for a copy of Spy. He's going to set the Spy, activate another Necro Valley, and I'm like, oh, that means he has Demise, because there's no reason he does this if he doesn't have Demise. So he drops it down. And luckily for me, all of his cards are actually not going to help him, because his Strike is offline. His Commandant is redundant, and his Summon Limit is also redundant. So I'm just going to go ahead and set only the Summon Limit, beat over the token, and then pass turn. And then I draw another copy of Lightning Storm. So I was very thankful that I didn't banish that many off the Gizmek. That was like one of the things I was considering, like, if Gizmek burns me here, then that kind of sucks. But I had to go for like the initial play that I thought was, good. It would have been good if he didn't have Crackdown. But thankfully, I've been very kind to have drawn 3 outs. Or I've been very fortunate, and luck has been kind to me. That's what I meant to say. Not I have been kind. I'm going to go ahead and use the Lightning Storm here. And it finally does resolve. He has not had any luck into drawing the 3rd Judgment. So we are able to just go ahead and close out the game from here. So I think, because like I actually don't have a lot of really good ways to use the Dragon Engine right now, because I don't have router access. And I also sided out the Dark Worm. So I'm like, oh man, that definitely sucks. So I just have to go ahead and use only the Orcust card. It's gonna Nightmare boost his own Phoenix to boost it to 22. And then I'm gonna go ahead and symbol bring back the Gyusu, and then use this effect to bring tokens. I don't need to dump anything else because I have all the good ones engraved anyways. We're gonna go ahead and turn that into Link Rebo, and he's gonna actually just leave the duel here, but I'm gonna just play it out to see what I could do. So I'm gonna go ahead and banish Wand to bring back the symbol, and then turn those 2 into Galatea. Recycle the Wand just because I can get a free Crescendo here, and then use Gizmek to summon itself. And then here I'm like, access code doesn't actually do it, because I only have one pop because it's all dark monsters. So I actually just go into a copy of Zeroboros, and then that is going to be game because it would be 18 plus 6 is 24 times 2 is 48 plus 3k is 7,800, and this is 22. So that would have been a fat 5,600 if my math is correct. So yeah, that would have been a lot of damage there. But yeah, that is going to be the way that you can navigate a very, very unfavorable matchup. Like this is like probably a 10 to 90 matchup. Maybe it's a little bit better than that. Maybe it's like 20-80, but it's not a good matchup for sure. But there are ways to play through it. Granted, we did get fortunate again by drawing a lot of our side cards, but you have to respect the back row decks, especially on Dueling Book. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you did enjoy, as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comment section down below. Subscribe for more competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch. All 3 links in the description as always. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.